All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Digital Nomad Mom Podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me, and it's Debbie Arcangeles. Yes, and she's tuning in from New York. Is that correct?
I'm actually in Florida. Yeah.
In Florida now. Okay, all right. And Debbie has a really interesting story to tell, and I'm all excited to ask her all the questions. So I hope you get buckled up, have a cup of tea or coffee, whatever you feel like having right now, and then we listen to the story of Debbie. And I would say, Debbie, well, first of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time and being
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, awesome. Debbie, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, where you're from and how you started becoming a location independently digital nomad?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Julia said, my name is Debbie and I am a content creator, specifically a podcaster. And I interview people like Julia who are digital nomads, remote entrepreneurs. And really that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years now. So it's been a pretty crazy and wild ride.
Wow, awesome. And this podcast idea, was that before you did it? How did you start with it? Why did you decide podcasting is my thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I even started it, I wasn't really a podcast listener at all. But my fiance at that time was really into podcasts. He still is right now. And at that time, I was growing my following on social media, specifically on Instagram. And I was traveling a lot. And I was also at a job that I didn't really like. I mean, it was pretty much what most people would have thought as the American dream. I didn't really work a lot of hours. I was getting paid like pretty decent amount of money. I could take off whenever I wanted. So most people are like, oh my gosh, this is excellent. But it was really something that I didn't want to do. And I can tell you, Julia, that every 4 months I was having panic attacks. So I knew that it really wasn't for me. And before this job, I was always being creative and I traveled a lot with my other jobs. So I thought I needed to go back to really what my passion was. And when I was traveling, I was meeting a lot of digital nomad and location independent entrepreneurs. And I really wanted to get to know them and how they got to that point. And that's really how the podcast started. It wasn't even an idea to create a business from it, but really talk to experts who really knew how to make this life more sustainable.
Okay, that's fantastic. I always find that this is the best success stories, when money isn't an issue, or when you're not saying, oh, I need to make money, but you're actually following your heart and your gut feeling because it's your passion and you want to simply, out of an interest, or out of, in this case, you also want to help other people through your podcast, right? You help others to learn about this lifestyle. And so this is amazing. Yeah, congrats on that. That's awesome. So tell me now, you are, like you said, this is now your business and this is what you do full time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I left my day job like a little over a year ago, and I've been doing this full time for like for almost 1.5 years.
Wow, cool. And how about, well, we have to talk about it. We are in the middle of a worldwide crisis. How about the coronavirus? Has this affected your business? Or I imagine it's booming now. Everyone wants to talk about remote work, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about what I did was I wasn't really focusing on the travel part of it. I was focusing on really helping people make this more sustainable. And that's really what's helped me out. And obviously I can't travel because I used to travel a decent amount for work, but now I can just do what I do at home. So it really hasn't done too much for my business. I've gotten new opportunities from this, and it's really what I love to do. So now it's just like more people are doing this, and it's not even anything like, oh, I want to do this. It's kind of a necessity. Or other people are like, okay, this is really the push that I needed to start doing this full time. So there's been a lot of opportunities, and also a lot of opportunities to help more people as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like this crisis is changing the whole work atmosphere, or the cultures that most big companies have? I sometimes get the feeling that now everyone thinks differently, or they have to restart and rethink things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the most part, before, a lot of people thought what we did was not sustainable.
Yeah.
And you would always get like weird looks from people like, how are you doing this? This is strange. This is not something that's going to keep you fed and alive for a long period of time. Now it's switched, right? Now it's like, oh my goodness, like I need to be in this because then I could work anywhere, even from home. So this is really what I wanted to do when I started my podcast, and really my whole brand is it wasn't necessarily about traveling. It was about the freedom that you needed to have, right? So even if you have children, you know, you're a digital nomad mama, like if you want to be a stay-at-home parent, like you can do that and still be able to create income. If you do want to travel all over the world, you can do that as well. So it's just creating freedom for yourself. And that's really what attracted me to this. And being location independent is really what I felt was going to give me that, and also a lot of people as well.
Would you say, is that your favorite thing about this lifestyle? Or
Yeah, absolutely. It's just really the freedom that we get from it. So even now there's a pandemic and we're still able to create income. And because of all of the skills that we have been able to create for ourselves, even before this happened, it's becoming even more of, you know, people really want the skills that we have now. And, you know, they ask us how we do this, how we do that. So it's been a pretty crazy transition from all of it.
it really has been. Yeah, wow. What would you say are the skills, if you say like, let's pick 5 or 3 or 5 skills that are very necessary for this lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really understanding how to communicate, because that's what a lot of people really have a struggle with is, you know, it's different when you're face to face, and then it's different with video. So that's one thing. And also making sure you're keeping up with everything, because when you're working at home, you're really setting your own schedule. So making sure that you're on top of your game, you know how to communicate well, and really organized. So those are the 3 things that you really need to have.
That's true. Also, I totally agree. I would say discipline is something so important, and having a schedule and a structure, even though you want to break out and live an alternative lifestyle, it's still so necessary, I find. You really are on top of things.
I think it's more important, even more when you are working for yourself and at home, because you don't have your boss, you know, right next to you, or even a coworker right there telling you, okay, we need to get this done.
Exactly. Yes. And when you first started, I mean, you shifted from a full-time job, and then you did this. And what were your obstacles that you felt like, oh, I have to get used to it, or was it a smooth entry?
Well, I don't know about anyone else. It definitely wasn't a smooth entry for me. I did do a lot of prepping for it. And I think a lot of people think like you're just going to jump into this and all of a sudden you just create income from whatever it is that you're doing. So what I did was throughout the time that I started my podcast, I mean, it was pretty quick. I about 6 months after I started a podcast, I started creating income from it. But I knew I wanted to make it more sustainable. So I really created systems for myself before I even left my job, and creating income for myself as well. So there was really a lot of, you know, things for me to err on, like make errors on before I dove in, because I didn't want to have to go back to that job again. And I really wanted to do this long term.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great. And I don't know if you mind sharing this a little bit, but let's talk about the income part, because if the listeners are now hearing, oh, you're making money just from having a podcast, right? So how do you monetize your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say that you need to be able to create multiple streams of income because, everybody knows now
Yes.
there's, even 9 to 5s are not really that stable, right? You can lose it at any time. We didn't think this was going to happen, but here it is. So one
Exactly.
of the main ways that I'm able to create income is through brand sponsorships with my podcast. I'm lucky enough to have sponsors that come to me and they're there for a long period of time. And then another way is through digital products. So that's my second way of creating income. And another way that I'm making money is also through memberships and coaching with my listeners or people who also want to start a podcast. So really, I have two different ways of doing it and two different brands that I have, which is helping people to be location independent and learn remote skills. And another one is to how to really create a sustainable podcast and make that into a business for them as well.
Okay, that sounds, yeah, I mean, that is the key to the digital nomad lifestyle. I always tell people you cannot bank on your blog or website or just one thing. It's really the multiple income streams. That is so smart. Yes. And what would you say have you learned about yourself? When I feel like this is a, yeah, it's a different type of living, a different type of mindset. And well, maybe there are two questions. What have you learned about yourself, and what would you say is really, would this lifestyle be for anybody, or do you reckon there is just a type of person who is capable of doing this?
Well, I think if you really want to do it, you'll find and figure out a way. But I don't think it is for everybody. I mean, as a digital nomad, a digital nomad means like you travel constantly and you can still work from anywhere, but you want to travel as you go around. And a lot of people that I've spoken to, I'm not a digital nomad, I'm just location independent. And I know I've traveled for a few months and tried to work at the same time. It was just too much for me. So I couldn't do that. I don't know how digital nomads do it. But I definitely need a certain space and to have a home base. And that's what I created for myself in New York and here in Florida. But it depends on how you are as a person, because as digital nomads, it was for me hard to keep up with everything and also sightsee and travel. When I do that now, I tend to stay at a place for a longer period of time so I could really have a balance between the two.
Mm.
So I would say that it's not for everybody, but you should be able to find something that's in the middle. Maybe you just want to be working from home and be location independent, like something similar that I do, and then travel here and there, a few months out of the year to keep that balance of traveling and also be able to still create income.
And I think many digital nomads, at least from my network, I know they start with the travel thing, and then they come to a point where they say, "Oh, now I'm exhausted, and I feel like I need to have a base at least, or three bases around the world, so that they can be a few months here, there, and there." And then this becomes a lot less stressful because traveling can really be, yeah, become exhausting. I'm speaking of experience, but I will tell you this on your show because, yeah, I will be your guest soon, so we can talk about my story then. Um, do you have any other advice for digital nomads that you would like to share? Like anything else that is helping them? Someone who has no experience at all. What would you
I
say?
think, well, one of the main questions that I always get from people when they haven't started it yet, and I get this all the time, is like, what can I do? I don't have any experience yet. Do I even have the skills? And I would ask them, like, what do you do now? Like, what do you used to do? What kind of skills have you done? And usually you'll find that you'll have something like several of them that you could actually translate into remote work. Like, we all know how to use an email, so you could manage somebody's email.
Yeah.
um, we all know how to use social media. I'm pretty sure a lot of people now are using TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Maybe you're even a marketer, or you know how to use Pinterest really well. So there's so many different aspects of it that you just need to figure out what your current skills are or what you're really passionate about. And that always usually translates to remote work. So it's
Mhm.
just figuring that out and then just going for it. And then obviously really finding, once you know that, then you can find the actual work that will help you get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're on the Digital Nomad Mom Podcast. So of course we have to talk about family. How is this with you? What you just mentioned your fiance. How are you guys? In which stage are you? If you want to share.
Yeah, so we're pretty like good, but in the beginning it was like, oh my God, I need my space, which I'm so happy that we're actually in Florida because we have more space here. If we were in our New York City apartment, I think we would have gone nuts. Yeah, so we're pretty good. There's good and bad days. Usually it's good, sometimes it's bad, especially when you're closed in quarters. And I'm really, really close with my family too, in New York specifically. So we do like FaceTime every single day. We actually eat together and then cook together. That's why I was cooking a lot today. So it's just like a balance, and I love my family so much, and that's how really now how we all try to keep up with each other.
Okay, yeah, wow, that sounds good. Very close relationship. And are you planning on having children as well? Are you thinking about
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're trying to see when we can do it. I don't think now is the time.
never the
But
perfect time though?
I know we have so many friends that are like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh, it's a Corona baby.
Yes, people have
They're like,
time.
okay, cool. But yeah, we've definitely thought about it. So my previous job before I went off to do this one was I worked with kids a lot. And before that, like children were actually what I used to do. I used to be a teacher and a therapist for them for a really long time. And my fiance is a therapist for children as well. So we are very, we love children. So it's
Okay.
definitely in the future for us.
Okay, perfect. Before we closing up here, I would like to know, even though you're not moving and traveling like most listeners probably want to or are doing already, but how does your perfect day look like when you still try to organize your work from home, like we said before, discipline? How does that look like from A to B? I mean, from morning to
Yeah,
evening.
I usually try to create like we talked about a system for myself and making sure that I do that. So I mean, I kind of am living my perfect day right now because it is my business, so I do it however I want to. So for me, my perfect day is I wake up, I work out, I come back home or wherever it is I'm coming from.
Mm.
Um, and then I eat breakfast. When I'm traveling, I usually go sightseeing early in the morning. So that's like part of my exercise. I do a hike or a swim somewhere before anyone else wakes up. And then I would come home, eat for lunch, and then do a little siesta and then work for the rest of the day. But when I'm at home, I work out, breakfast, and then I do work. And then I usually try to work for like 5 hours. If I can stop myself, sometimes it's really hard to stop yourself from working. That's why you need to have a timeline. I have to be better at that because I'm not, because I could just like work and work until I fall asleep. So that's not good either. So you make sure you have a schedule. And then usually Aaron and I, we like to go out and go for a walk or go for a drive. When quarantine wasn't here yet, we still used to do a lot of walking. You know what it is for us, like having that time for ourselves after work.
Yeah.
It's just like, how's your day going, and just keeping like that balance and communication together was always so important.
Yeah, and reconnect after the day. Yeah, that sounds good. Awesome. Well, I think this was perfect and very interesting. So much. If you have one last piece of advice for anyone interested in living this lifestyle, and then we're wrapping up the show.
Yeah, just do it, figure out what it is that you really want to do, the skills that you already have, and just go for it. Don't overthink anything because you're going to start overwhelming yourself. So if you can just do one thing every single day, that is enough. That's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. That's good advice. Thanks so much, Debbie, for being on the show. This was awesome talking to you. And tell us now, where can people reach you if they want to follow you or, yeah, get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at theoffbeatlife.com. So that's where you're going to find if you're interested in getting remote work, just advice for that. There's also my podcast there. And you can find me on Instagram at theoffbeatlife.com. Also, if you go to theoffbeatlife.com/digital nomad mom, I have a freebie there for you if you want to be a digital nomad. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I clicked that link. All right. Thanks for being on the show. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. And yes, this was it for today. And we will be there shortly with a new episode. And stay tuned. Thank you, guys.